Look at verse 9. But now that you've come to know God, or rather be known by God, how can you turn back again to the weak and worthless stoicheon, right, the elementary principles, whose slaves you want to become once more? Here, then, is our secret to understanding verse 10, which is I'm leading up to. Paul is anchoring verse 10 within the context of verses 8 and 9. He's describing a former lifestyle that they used to participate in, and a lifestyle that they wish to turn back to. So ask yourself this question. Did they used to follow Judaism? Did they used to, when they were pagans, when they were Roman citizens, when they were Greco-Roman functioning people, were they within the synagogues and things like that? Well, it's quite probable that they weren't. And so let's jump into my commentary and see how Paul works out verse 10. Starting in verse 10, which, if you've got my written notes, we're near the bottom of page 141, moving into page 142. Verse 10 reads, "You observe days and months and seasons and years." Now, let's read my comments and see how straightforward this can be. Continuing with our comparison between standard Christian views and Messianic Jewish views of this passage, we again find that many Christian commentators, see in this verse Paul warning his readers away from Sabbaths, which is the special days, Rosh Chodesh, which would be the months, and perhaps the Shemitah, which would be the seasons and years. These are, according to most Christian commentators, the weak and beggarly elements that Paul is warning the Gentile Christians away from. These are the things that Paul doesn't want them to return to, because these represent slavery and bondage, and the Judaizers are trying to force the Gentiles to undergo this return to a lifestyle that's modeled after the Mosaic legislation, which, of course, according to most Christian commentators, represents bondage and slavery. Right? So let's read my commentary and see what we have to say about that. Most of you know by now I'm going to sharply disagree with the traditional Christian position there, because I'm a pro-Torah believer in Messiah, and I believe that the Torah-based lifestyle is the lifestyle that is relevant for not only Jewish believers in Messiah, but it's relevant for Gentile believers in Messiah as well. So let me read what I have to say in my commentary and just kind of hit the nail on the head for you. Here's what I have to say. Given that the influencers were certainly pushing for circumcision and Torah observance, right? We've taught that all along. I do believe that that's the case. Then, given that background, the standard Christian interpretation sounds quite plausible, right? They are pushing for circumcision. So it would make sense that they would be pushing for the Sabbaths, the observed days and months and seasons and years. It would seem to be that that's what Paul is referring to. And in fact, it seems like an airtight argument until we look at some other things. However, as already noted in verse 9 above, which is the context that I just gave to you, the more convincing context of these, quote, days, months, seasons, and years, end quote, points to Roman pagan calendar observances. That's right. Pagan Rome had their own days, months, seasons, and years, the familiarity to these Gentiles, Christians, the familiarity of which probably provided the impetus to turn back again to the weak and worthless elementary principles of the world, end quote. Paul recognizes that they want to turn back again to the weak and worthless elementary principles. Well, this is very strange. If they're seeking to become Jewish proselytes, how is it that they also seek to return to Gentile paganism? They seem to be contradictory, don't they? Well, let's explain it. Moreover, knowing that Paul, I say this in my commentary, knowing that Paul personally confessed that he was a Torah-observant Jew his whole life, renders the Christian interpretation of these observances untenable. I say in my commentary, why would Paul keep Torah his whole life, even after coming to faith in Yeshua as Messiah, and then warn others against wanting to keep Torah also, right? The logic is faulty. The logic is faulty.